Okay, Georgia. So now hopefully I can get through this video a little faster than the previous one. Okay, so I'm going to have this handy and we're going to go look very quickly at the paper itself. All right, so as the paper opens, I have color-coded some sections. Yes. It's particularly pages 1 through about 2, yeah, where the initial color coding is important, I think. This this green stuff is, you titled it Introduction, but this is not really what an introduction to a chapter 3 would be about, right? An introduction to chapter 3 would be like, this chapter does X, Y, and Z. This is the methodology section where we discuss blah, blah, blah. But that's not what this passage is doing. This passage is telling us what qualitative research is. So that's a different heading that it needs. I think qualitative research would be a good heading for this. And I think that this should be the third section of chapter 3. So here in the introductory, so if you go up, here I'm recommending that qualitative research be your third sort of section that we hit when we start reading. Now this could all change a little bit. It won't change a lot later, but I think we're making baby steps to get this better and better with every draft. I think that you should title it Chapter 3 Methodology, all uppercase, as I explained previously. Here's another paragraph that you call case study methodology, but if you read this paragraph, you'll see you don't mention case study, I don't think, at all. You actually mention the purpose of the chapter in orange, and you mention the purpose of the study in yellow. And purpose of the study statements need to be consistent with one another throughout your study. It's okay if you mention the purpose of the study at the beginning or somewhere in every chapter. It's okay to remind the reader of that, especially in a dissertation. But it needs to be consistent. And every writer struggles with this because you're always tweaking your purpose and you're always doing new wordsmithing and saying things in a slightly different way because it sounds better, it's clearer. So as you do that, as you revise that purpose statement, make sure you go back and revise it in chapter 1. If you talked about the purpose at all in chapter 2, go revise it there as well. Your chapter 1 purpose statement is probably going to be your longest one. Like, I went back and looked at it today, and it's pretty long. It's like almost a page long, or it's 3/4 of a page long. The purpose statement here might just be, what's the essential purpose? Like, and here you've described, you have it in one sentence. The purpose of this study is to investigate, and I recommend you say, the nature of female participation in computer science in New York City high schools. Here you have sort of an essential single sentence purpose statement. Just make sure that that aligns with your previously stated purpose statements. Okay, so I recommend that you go ahead and open chapter 3 with purpose of the study. That's the first thing. And then the second thing I would do is have a section called introduction, and that's this orange stuff. That's the purpose of the chapter. And here's some more orange stuff that I think is purpose of the chapter type of stuff. So put that also in that second paragraph. Then have a third paragraph called qualitative research. Now you're kind of taking us in. What is qualitative research? What is this approach? Then the fourth paragraph, again, I've got it over here as well, is researcher's worldview. This goes really hand in hand with the qualitative approach. So you're explaining your worldview and how that aligns with the qualitative approach that you described in the previous paragraph. Then you can take us one step further in. We're getting closer to your study. Then you can tell us what is a qualitative case study. Define it, what it is, and why is it appropriate. You've already reminded us what your purpose is. You've talked about what qualitative research is and can do. You talked about your worldview. So we have enough information given already in chapter 3 to then understand why. I think it'll be pretty easy for you to tell us why the qualitative case study approach is appropriate. Okay, so if you scroll back up to the top to page 1 of this scan document, you'll see that you'll remember that I went and just copied and pasted Creswell's definition of what case study research is. It's a fantastic definition. You want to have a similarly sort of fantastic definition that gives people an idea of what case study research is, and try to put it in your own words. Go read this one. Go read Merriam again on what essentially is a case study, and you know, revise what you've got. I don't think you actually addressed what it was. You don't. Do put the research questions at the end of chapter 2, like I had said. And then I decided in this reading, anywhere you see purple, and I sometimes put video comment or just vid, means that I want to make sure I mention this thing in the video because I'm not going to mention everything. Here you're talking about research design and procedures. So this would be a natural section to follow what you were just doing. You were just telling us what qualitative case study research is. Great. Now let's go a step further in. Let's talk about your qualitative case study, or how you're going to design it. So we know what a case study is because you just defined it in the paragraph above really well. Now that we know what a bounded system is, or a unit of analysis, you're going to tell us what your qualitative study, given the purpose that you've also mentioned just a few paragraphs above, what is your bounded system that you're going to be exploring? The way you've expressed this first sentence is not quite right. You said, I chose to use a bounded case study design as described by, and actually that citation isn't proper. You would just put Merriam right behind design, honestly. But case studies are by definition, they use a bounded system, or a unit of analysis that is your bounded system. So you need to tell us what that is. And so this is a great opportunity. I had not asked you to do this previously because as we read these drafts, we get distracted by other things that might be wrong, but this is a big thing that I want you to work on this weekend. This question of what is the bounded system you're going to use, because we've been really vague on this point. You've been really vague on this point so far. You think you know what it is, but I want you to think about it some more. So I went through and I've created this bounded system document that's also linked inside of the email that I sent. And I brainstormed some ideas for your bounded system given what I kind of know about what you're talking about. Here are 3 different examples of ways you could bound your study. The first one is the easiest, and even it will be a challenge. So I might recommend going with it. It's all I could handle as a doc student, I'll tell you that. So in this system, so this gray square, so sorry that it's like a big table that has multiple, I should have done it as individual different blocks, right? But this is the first bounded system, all this information right here. Okay, so in this gray area, that gray area is meant to suggest this wider system of, you have an introductory computer science course that's in a New York City high school during a specific time frame. Those are like the larger boundaries. New York City school, or New York City Department of Ed, that's part of that boundary. It's an even bigger ring around it. And then another bigger ring around it within which your system is like, you know, the state of New York and the United States. So all these different like larger rings of context. But really for your system, this is what your focus is. It's that high school classroom in a New York City high school during a specific time frame during the school year. So you need to be very specific about that time frame. You're not totally specific about that in another section. And you understand that piece of your system through observations, teacher interview maybe, and you didn't mention teacher interview, but I think it'd be good to interview the teacher, and maybe documents that you collect from the school site and from the classroom. But here's where we really narrow down. We haven't really described your bounded system yet, though, the one that's going to get you to the questions that you want. This is really the essence of your bounded system. A single case of the experiences, perceptions, motivations, and and I don't know if you want to include computer science content knowledge. I just put that there because I know we talked about it before, but for sure you're interested in experiences, perceptions, and motivations around computer science related to the group of girls, and I may not have expressed this totally well, the group of girls in this classroom. Okay, so that's a case, and you can collect data, so you can collect interviews or focus groups, do your observations, analyze any student work that you might have, journals, whatever your data sources are, and then this is your one case, and you take all of the data, you pull it into your analytic system, and you analyze it and you look for themes. So you would be focusing on all of the girls in the same class as a single case, and you can analyze all the data together. Here's an example of a multiple case study that you could do. And this is 5 cases, but you wouldn't have to do 5. You could probably do 3 or 4. I think I even put between 3 and 6. So, I mean, if you wanted to do as many as 6, you could. But you could treat each girl as a case. So you build a case and you describe that case. You synthesize that information based on all this data you collect around each girl. So you might have like, several pages of information about each case, what you learn from them, about their motivations, what's their backstory, why are they in this class, what do they think about this class, are they going to disenroll from this class? So each girl will be her own case, and then you would build a descriptive case for each girl, and then you would use cross-case analysis to identify common and uncommon themes. You could even have girls at different sites. That makes it even much harder. So you could do this approach. Again, this essential kind of series of cases, these multiple cases, are bounded within this system of introductory CS course in New York City. So it's got the same larger boundary. But what you're doing in this section here, this unit of analysis, is you're describing your unit of analysis or your bounded system in words. So what you see here, this is one way I've described it, and it might even help you to make a little chart like one of these things, and then to make a figure. It's a figure, and then explain it in words. Here's another idea. You could have a multiple case using 2 cases. One is the case of the girls in the CS course. So you look at their data as a lump. Here's some examples of the types of data. And then the boys as a lump. And then you create a girls case, a descriptive girls case, and a descriptive boys case. So a synthesis of the data that you have collected on the girls and a synthesis of the data on the boys. And then you also use cross-case analysis. The question is, do any of these bounded systems, if you were to bound these, which ones do you think might yield the best insights on your study? I think that single case would do just fine. I think that you're going to learn a lot of interesting things from the girls. I think that analytically it's going to be more manageable. But you might find it useful to do the multiple case approach, where you just focus on a number of girls. That might be easier in other ways. So yeah, that's something you need to think about. So as you're reading about methods this weekend. Okay. So after you've described your bounded case, then you can put this commentary about how hard it is to access stuff. It's good information, but you notice how you didn't really explain what your bounded case was. We have no idea what your unit of analysis is. And I use those 2 terms interchangeably. I'm sure that they're different depending on who you ask, what research expert. Okay. So I've got some other comments here, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll through because I am running out of time in my second video. If I could quickly comment on this. I put confused here, where you're talking about you're going to send forms home with students identified as current, past, or disenrolled computer science students. I thought that you were going to, if anybody in your sample from this high school class of these girls, if they disenrolled, you were going to talk to them. I think it's really going to be hard for you to go find students that disenrolled last semester or last year, plus you have new issues of, can they actually remember anything meaningful for you? I would say only include disenrolled if people in your sample disenroll. Chase them down and include them, but otherwise I would not do that because I think that it becomes a nightmare. And then past students, I wouldn't touch them. You need to be dealing with students right now that are in this selected, bounded system that we're just talking about. That's my strong recommendation on that. So I would just go with current students, and probably at least 1 or 2 of them are going to disenroll. And if they don't, great, learn from them, and you don't have to worry about the disenrollment question. You can remove that sub-question from your research questions, and it's fine. You're going to learn a lot from these people. And then one more comment, and then I'm going to have to make a 3rd video. I apologize, but hopefully the information's good. When you describe how you're going to get assent and consent, I want you to think about how could you get the teacher to help do this through teacher processes that the teacher's already doing. Maybe the teacher can help collect it and they'll probably get more yeses, I think.